Hey, this is Megan and Stacy.
And we're here with our third What We're Cooking and Eating Now bonus episode. Instead of doing these once a season, which is what we were doing before as a regular episode, we're going to share 2 short episodes every month in addition to our regular weekly episodes. And in these little bonus nugget episodes, we're going to give you real-time rundown of what we're cooking for our families, like right now this week.
In each of these episodes, we'll walk you all the way through one recipe and then list 5 others. All in, you'll get 6 easy weeknight dinner ideas that we've tested and our family has taste tested.
You can use our ideas as inspiration, or you can literally turn them into your meal plan for next week. How awesome is that?
What?
We'll be sharing links for all the recipes mentioned in our free community, which you can join by going to didn'tijustfeedyou.com/community. All you have to do is enter your email, which we keep private, and look out for our post with the What We're Cooking and Eating Now details.
All right, let's jump right in with you, Stacy. What have you cooked for your family this week?
Okay, so I'm going to talk fast because we like to keep these to a total of 15 minutes.
That's me. You have to tell me. You're always like, Megan, slow down. So just walk us through one, and then we can do high-level ideas about the others.
Okay. It's just really hard not to talk about this first thing that I made. So my eyes have opened to something completely new in the culinary world, which, doesn't happen to you and I very often because, we're in it every minute. And, a lot of trends, we see them coming. We hear rumblings, months beforehand. But Isaac mentioned a couple of times that he had gotten a chopped cheese for lunch. I was like, What's a chopped cheese? He was like, oh, it's this sandwich that you get at the bodega. I actually posted on my Instagram about this, and I was quickly talking and I said deli instead of bodega. And I was like, I don't feel like re-recording. The deli and bodega are not synonymous in New York City. And I was like, I'm curious to see how many of my followers are New Yorkers. And a couple of people did definitely call me out.
And they came for you.
They were like, deli? I was like, listen.
You know what I meant.
You know what I meant. I was talking fast. I didn't want to re-record. But, for anyone who doesn't know, bodegas are everywhere all across New York City. They're corner stores. Some have cold salad bars. They're not grocery stores, but you can get some pantry stuff in some of the bigger ones. Tons of drinks, every drink imaginable. And then bacon, egg, and cheese, apparently a chopped cheese. And there are some staples that you can get from the griddle from nearly any bodega. So I asked about the chopped cheese and he's like, I don't know. It's just like a sandwich and it's cheap and it's delicious. Fine. So I ended up looking it up and it turns out that there's this intense history around a chopped cheese sandwich. It's a New York thing. It depends. Some people say the Bronx, some people say Harlem. People think that it has its roots, not just in New York City culture, but that a lot of bodegas in the Bronx and in Harlem, where it has its, where it first started, are owned by Yemenis. And there's a Yemeni chopped beef sandwich that they think was the inspiration for it. But it's really interesting because you can't find a recipe online very easily. J. Kenji Alt Lopez. He has one because it turns out that he grew up in Harlem. So he knew about it and he did his version. But that's the only real recipe that I could find. And then there were a couple of articles about how it's being gentrified. But basically chopped cheese is food for certain neighborhoods. It was cheap. It was satisfying. It was delicious. And then New York foodies and wealthier people kind of caught wind. And now it's becoming a hipster food. And there's apparently some fancy restaurant in Manhattan that was selling a chopped cheese for $18 and people are up in arms about it. I think
because how much does one cost at a bodega?
Oh, nothing.
$3?
Not even.
Okay.
2 something.
Okay.
So Isaac, I think also it's mentioned in a lot of New York hip hop music. So Isaac really loves drill music and there's Brooklyn drill and New York drill and also Chicago drill and all these other things.
Yes.
But I think that a lot of these New York specific artists mention a chopped cheese, which is where I think teenagers are all over, in all the boroughs are starting to order it because one article was saying how it used to be that you couldn't get a chopped cheese in Brooklyn because no one knew about it because Brooklyn's pretty far from the Bronx and
Yeah.
Upper Manhattan and Harlem. But now some bodegas are getting hip to it in Brooklyn. So it's kind of hit or miss. You go into some bodegas, and the article mentioned one a block and a half from my house. And they were like, yeah, we got you, chopped cheese. And they went to another one like 10 blocks away, and they're like, chopped cheese. What's a chopped cheese? Anyway, all this to say that a chopped cheese is literally a hamburger patty chopped up with onions on the griddle and served on a hoagie roll.
With cheese.
With cheese.
What
That's
kind
it.
of cheese?
American.
Okay, so but you're
The
telling us
cheapest.
this because wait, I have two things to say. One, you were like at the top, you were like, this is something new, but then you mentioned that it's based on this Yemeni
Yeah, sandwich.
sandwich.
That's what it's theorized. No one has spoken
Okay.
to the original guy. He happens to be Yemeni, so people are guessing that
Okay.
that's what it's inspired by.
But then you said that Kenji grew up with it, which he's like gotta be in his mid 40s. So like what makes something new
Yeah.
in the
Oh,
culinary
he's in
world?
the
What does
80s. 80s feels news to me. It's not
Yeah.
like it hasn't
So we're
been
talking-
around for a long time.
So in the
Listen,
culinary world, if it hasn't been around for 100 years, 1,000 years, like ramen,
yeah,
it's only 50 years old.
totally.
It's the
Which,
new shit.
first of all, also, I'm taking personal offense to this conversation because Kenji's my age, Megan.
This is also me coming to the realization that at 37, I am also old.
Okay,
just so
like,
you know.
I'm calling it the new shit, and you will back the F up.
Yes, brand new, fresh as a baby's bottom. That's us.
Well,
that
listen,
is us. Okay.
Listen.
So-
also, like it's just starting to really spread throughout New York City. It
a
was
new trend.
It was like a
Yeah.
hyper local food
Okay.
in the 80s, which I consider recent history. Anyway, I made one. It was delicious. I didn't have hoagie rolls, which are also a specific thing that we don't have time to get into.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a very specific type of roll. I had seeded potato rolls, which was fine. It worked fine. I think the interesting thing that Kenji pointed out when he made his was that even though he was at home and he made the sandwich, he basically took a hamburger patty. We said we would talk it through. Take a hamburger patty, you put it on a griddle or in I used a nonstick pan. Stop. I actually sauteed onions first.
Okay.
Then I put the hamburger patty on top. Then I chopped it up. He used bouillon powder, which is not traditional, but that was his Kenji flair. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So I did that too. Next time, I don't think I would bother. And then at the very end, when everything's chopped up, you kind of like pull the beef together into a shape of your hoagie roll and then lay a slice or two of American cheese on top. Put the lid on so it melts, and then take a spatula and kind of scoop underneath the whole thing, transfer it to your hoagie roll. And then I used Chick-fil-A sauce because I had some shredded lettuce and tomato, but traditionally I believe it's mayo, shredded lettuce and tomato. Close it up, eat it. That's it. Super simple, delicious. It's basically a chopped up hamburger. But Kenji pointed out that actually, if you wrap it in aluminum foil and let it sit for a minute, you get the real experience, because that's how you get your food from a bodega. If anyone's ever gotten a chopped cheese or a bacon, egg, and cheese, they wrap it in aluminum foil and then you go somewhere to eat it, even if you're just walking from the bodega to the corner or a park bench or your car or whatever, or the subway. Because
so
yes, I have
a
eaten on
little
the
bit.
subway. Exactly. It steams the bread and softens the bread. So that's the real if you're trying to recreate the experience. Isaac gave it a sideways thumbs, which in our house means it's good, but the original's better, because he said that my meat tasted like quality meat and that ruined the experience. That's a near exact quote.
I'm not even mad at that review. I find
Listen.
it incredibly
Yeah.
endearing.
He
Yes.
also felt like, did the burger come already patty shaped? And I was like, no, I made my own patty shape. And he's like, nope, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, wrong.
You did it wrong. So will you go have a chopped cheese at a bodega
Oh,
so that
totally.
you can then do it again? And
Totally.
also, when you make a sandwich like that, do you serve anything else for dinner?
Yeah,
Like
so that
chips or frozen fries?
Yeah, so that I had with frozen fries done in the air fryer and just like a big salad. Lately, I've been feeling really exhausted. I know you're really big on bagged salads in general, but I tend to make like a homemade dressing at the beginning of every week. So I've been getting bagged romaine. And also I've been really into like I'm nostalgic for the way my dad used to make Greek salads, which traditional hordiatiki is without lettuce. But then he also did a version which is chopped romaine, like chopped tomato, chopped cucumber, really crumbled feta, and then red wine vinegar, lemon juice, and oil, not measured out like as a separate dressing, just like poured
Right.
right over the greens and then massaged. So I did that.
Yum. Also, that's like one of those measured with his heart. He measured it all with his heart.
He did. And like a
Aw.
lot of salt. So it was like nice and salty. So that's the salad we've been eating a lot lately.
Awesome. Okay, what else have you been eating?
2 other things we ate. Okay, Bon Appetit. We'll put a link. It's called Mustardy sausage and halloumi stir fry. I thought this was really, really interesting. Cut up halloumi, fried in the pan, set it aside. Then sausage, I used bratwurst. Cook it up, brown it, sliced up, brown it, not whole, and then put that aside. And then cabbage and onions. And then pull the whole thing together and pour on a vinaigrette that I can't remember off the cuff, but if you follow the recipe, it was basically like a little soy sauce, a little vinegar, a little oil, and Dijon mustard.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was really good. I have to be honest that the halloumi and the bratwurst, and it did call for something like bratwurst. That was the intention. Like, wasn't my favorite for some reason, but it did totally work. It was really tasty. Both of my kids said that they liked it, but that they had wished I just done my normal roast the sausage, make marinated white beans, and serve crusty bread. So there you go. But I thought it was worth it. If you like that mustardy cabbage and sausage thing, I think throwing in halloumi is like a nice new fresh take on it.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that gets a sideways thumbs for me too. And
does that mean we're making a rating system for this
I
episode?
don't know. This is my house. We do thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways.
Yeah.
The last thing I made recently was kimchi fried rice, which weirdly enough, I've never made. I have kimchi in my fridge almost at all times. And I'm always intending to make kimchi fried rice because it seems like such an easy, delicious thing. And then we just end up eating kimchi.
Yeah. Or you make the rice
on
into like the crispy sheet pan rice that we all love.
Yeah. And sometimes I do that. So I actually followed the recipe in the New York Times and it was good, but it didn't call for garlic in the fried rice itself. And I was like, oh, that must make sense because the kimchi will take care of the flavor. And I really wish it was more garlicky. You don't scramble the egg into the fried rice. Instead, you make over easy eggs on the side and serve it on top, which was great. And I really liked it. Like the kids were really excited about it. It wasn't too spicy. So Oliver really liked it too. The one thing I want to add. So one of my favorite Instagram follows is Liz Slam. She's at the Subversive Table. And she recently just shared something that she puts on a lot of her different bowl meals, which are these stir-fried crispy seaweed with salt and sugar. She called them seaweed sprinkles. They're already cut up into...
I'm into that.
Oh my God. It looks so
Sign
good.
me up.
They're already cut up. You just sprinkle it on top. It looks so good. It looks like it might have more flavor than just regular roasted seaweed or furikake, which is also made with regular roasted seaweed. So I'm super eager to try those.
Yes. So the next time you make kimchi fried rice, that's going on top.
Yep. You gotta find it, but that's what's going on top.
When you find it, just go ahead and send me like 3.
Yes, I will do that. And with both of those, what I like about both of those sausage, halloumi stir fry, and the kimchi fried rice, cabbage. Oh, both are cabbage because one's kimchi.
Yeah.
I used cabbage kimchi. Anyway, I felt like that's the vegetable. One bowl meal. We're done.
Yes. I was going to say, that's one of those things I like about kimchi, or like if you do have quick pickles of any kind, like that's the flavor bomb. And it's also the veg.
That's
like,
it.
Win-win. Check.
Check. I like it. Check. All right, Megan, tell us what you have been eating at home.
Okay. I'm going to hop off your cabbage tray, or hop onto your cabbage train, sort of, because we had impromptu dinner guests on a weeknight, and one family is vegan and one family is gluten and dairy free. So I cooked like a big sheet pan of roasted Brussels sprouts. I used our trick that we've shared on Instagram. We can link to it in the community where you cut them into like coins instead of cutting them in half. So
Yes.
you get like really crispy. I did Brussels sprouts, a red onion, an apple, and just like tossed with olive oil, a little bit of Aleppo pepper, roasted it, and then finished it with the maple apple cider vinegar from Acid League, and then
Nice.
tossed that with the cascatelli bonza pasta, since the one
Yum.
family is gluten-free. And that was so good. I was one of those like no recipe, there's
Mhm.
nothing to link to. It's just kind of an idea. But one thing that I did that I liked was instead of tossing the pasta back in the pot with the veggies and like some cooking water, I just did it right on the sheet tray to get all the little bits of the roasted vegetables off.
Yes.
And then I felt like then there was less scrubbing to do of the pasta pot too.
That's genius.
Okay. And then we have to talk about this, and it's going to push us over time, but we're going to do it because in our community, we did our live quarterly cocktail hour recently. And I was saying how I bought pineapples to do the recipe for the cocktail hour. And then I had all this pineapple left over and it was like too much for us to eat just as snacks.
And was it our listener, Rachel Hanna, who mentioned these skirt steak tacos with pineapple salsa from the book Food Between Friends, a cookbook that we've talked about on the show before?
And I bought all the ingredients to make them because I was like, obviously I need to use up the pineapple. And then we ended up hanging out with friends. So I took all the ingredients over to their house and cooked in their kitchen. We didn't have the chipotle peppers that the recipe called for, but I thought it was really good. But you also made it recently and your family didn't love it as much. And so I want to talk about that because I like when we give like honest reviews of things. Yeah.
I just thought there was something bitter.
Okay.
And because you use the marinade to marinate the meat and to toss with the salsa, that's why it's such a smart recipe, because you make one mix in the blender or food processor and then you use it in these two ways and you get like you flavor bomb both your salsa, your topping, and your main protein. But I think there was something bitter in that.
Yeah.
That then made the whole dish bitter. So I didn't exactly measure. I'm really good at estimating, but like maybe I used a tiny bit too much fish sauce and that lent a bitterness, or it could have been that my cilantro was bitter. Like the produce at the market was not great recently.
Okay.
So I don't know, like if there's a weird.
I sometimes feel that way about cumin, especially when it gets like processed in the food processor or blender, or if it gets like overcooked in the pan, it can have like a very bitter flavor to it.
Something. So it could have not been the recipe. It could have been me or something about the nature of the ingredients I was using. But also, like, I just want to share that because I feel like the thing about an easy recipe that everybody loves is that it should be easy. Like if you burn the steak, right? Like if you burn the steak a little bit because you're doing two things at once, like that's why you picked an easy recipe for that night anyway.
Yeah, then it wasn't an easy recipe.
Right.
See, and I got to cook it like with our neighbor and she's a great cook and it was very like collaborative in that way and like had someone else to taste test things. So also, it's just a different experience.
Yeah,
too.
Totally. Also, I didn't grill it, and that could be part of it too. But it was in the pineapple salsa as well, so it was definitely something in that marinade dressing.
Interesting. Okay, well, maybe the rest of our community will also try it. Maybe it'll become like the crispy sheet pan rice, and we'll get some feedback and see if you have to make it again.
It is really
this summer.
It is really easy. So I'd be curious if people want to give it a try. Like I'm in the minority so far on this recipe. And it's still, even with the bitterness, it wasn't bad. But I do have to say my kids also have a high tolerance for bitter. If you have a kid who's like, it could be a bomb.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Fair warning. Fair warning. Okay. One last shout out. I have been under the weather recently. And I made a big pot of minestrone soup, which I don't have because I just riff on it every time I make it. But I think our soup episode is a really good starter if you're looking for ideas of how to do it. Like I always just start with a little olive oil in the pan and cook some onions, carrots, and celery, and then add homemade chicken broth. and tomato paste. And then I end up cooking like other veggies in the broth and adding canned tomatoes. And at the end, pasta. And I'm feeling very chuffed with myself because usually I cook the pasta like in a whole separate pot and it's like a whole thing. And this time I remember to use my any day cookware to microwave cook just like a cup of penne pasta to throw in at the end. And then I also had the any day container to put leftovers in. And I was feeling really smart.
Yay!
Even though because I was sick, and couldn't smell very well. I'd also made like s'mores treats with honey grahams, chocolate chips, and marshmallows, like a Rice Krispie treat. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be so clever and broil them for a minute so they'll be like a toasty s'more. And I burned the out of that because I was like trying to multitask and also couldn't smell just one corner. I'll share the embarrassing picture. It's fine, but it made me like end up telling my kids about what sick days were like for me when I was a kid. And my mom always left us like, cause you know, she was a single mom. And so a lot of times if we were sick, we stayed at home sick by ourselves. And she always had like Progresso canned minestrone for us when we were, or canned soup in general when we were sick. And so that's like minestrone when I'm sick is a weird nostalgia thing for me.
Do you put beans in your minestrone?
I do.
Kidney
if I
beans?
have them, we rebranded them as garbanzo beans for Oliver, right?
Yeah, we did.
I did garbanzo beans this time. Sometimes I do white beans. Honestly, kind of like I've done black-eyed peas in the past. I honestly kind of use whatever's
I think of it as being
hand.
a red kidney bean kind of recipe.
I think that's not inaccurate.
Okay.
I also, today when I was Googling how to pronounce minestrone, learned that sometimes it's made with rice instead of pasta.
Oh.
Yeah.
And do you ever cook the pasta in the soup itself?
Sometimes I do, but I always find that it like soaks up so much liquid and then it's not as much broth as I want it to be.
Got it.
I don't know. Do you find that?
I don't cook soup that much, as you know, people can hear on the soup episode. But yes, I would add it to the soup at the end just to save.
Also, not to be too precious, but I think the size of the pasta matters too. Like if you're using something small, then I think throw it right into the pot. That's what I do.
I usually do. I like those little tiny tubes.
Yes.
They're like tiny.
Dettatelli?
Yes,
is that what they're called?
Something like that.
Yes.
Those are my favorite for minestrone.
I didn't have those, so I had mini penne, so that worked out well.
Mini penne are so cute. Anyway, cute. They bring me joy. It's weird. I feel really like strongly about mini penne.
Mini things of all kinds bring me joy, but then if it's mini food things, like check, which is what we
That's the new
recipe episode.
New meme. Check. All right, we went over, so I'm going to close this out. This is a new bi-monthly series that is possible thanks in part to the generous support of our Didn't I Just Feed You supporting membership. So a huge shout out and thank you to them. You can find out more about becoming a supporting member at didn'tijustfeedyou.com/community. And hey, if it's not the right time for you to support us financially, don't forget that you can get all the links to this week's What We're Cooking Eating Now just by joining the free section of our community.
A huge thank you also to our editor, Samantha Gatzik. Thanks for listening. Stay sane and well-fed until next time.